What happens when you take the chaos of organizing one of the world's biggest tournaments, combined with the corporate bureaucracy, social media madness, political correctness, sustainability meetings, and then filter it all through the same people who made 2012 and W1A? You get 2026, the new British mockumentary comedy series from writer and director John Morton. Now, if you've seen 2012 or W1A, then you already know exactly the kind of humour this show is going to go for. Dry, awkward, painfully realistic satire that feels just close enough to reality to make you uncomfortable. And honestly, that's both the show's greatest strength and occasionally its biggest weakness. So today we're talking about 2026, the premise, the cast, the production, what works, what doesn't, and whether this World Cup mockumentary is actually worth watching. So the series follows the organisation behind the 2026 World Cup, although hilariously, they're never actually allowed to say FIFA out loud. Every time somebody says it, the name gets bleeped, and honestly, that running joke never really gets old. The show centres around Ian Fletcher, played once again here by Hugh Bonneville, reprising the same character he played in 2012 and W1A. This time, Ian is the Director of Integrity, overseeing preparations for the tournament taking place across the United States, Mexico, and Canada. And immediately you can imagine the nightmare. Different governments, different cultures, sustainability concerns, optic teams, social media analysts, corporate sponsors, political sensitivities, climate issues, and public relation disasters. The show basically satirises the impossible task of trying to make a modern global sporting event look perfect in an age where everybody is offended by something, everybody is online, and every decision becomes a PR nightmare. Each episode follows a week at the Miami headquarters as the team desperately tries to keep everything together by constantly dealing with bureaucracy and complete nonsense. Now, the cast here is genuinely excellent. Again, Hugh Bonneville absolutely carries the show. Most people still primarily know him for his Downton Abbey turn, but what's impressive is just how naturally he slips into this awkward, grounded comedy role. Ian Fletcher is such a specific type of character. He's polite, professional, completely overwhelmed, trying to keep everybody else happy while quietly dying inside. And Bonneville plays that understated frustration perfectly. Then you've got Hugh Skinner returning as Will Humphreys, Ian's assistant from W1A. He's still hilariously awkward, overly enthusiastic, and somehow both helpful, completely useless at the same time. The new cast members also fit into the world really well. Chelsea Crisp plays Sarah Campbell, the VP of Sustainability and Climate Strategy, and there's a subtle little relationship storyline between her and Ian Fletcher that develops naturally across the series. Alexis Milchak as the Belgian FIFA attaché Eric van der Duprens is one of the funniest parts of the entire show. And every scene involving endless corporate coordination meetings and diplomatic wording is painfully believable. But honestly, the social media team might divide audiences the most. They're intentionally exaggerated. You've got thread analysis, sentiment curators, and thought leaders constantly overcomplicating everything. At times they're genuinely funny because they reflect modern corporate culture perfectly, but at other times they are just downright annoying. But I also think that's kind of the point. Now, this is important. 2026 is not a laugh-out-loud comedy. This is not The Office, where you're constantly getting huge punchlines. The humour here is quieter, more observational, more awkward. You sort of chuckle at how absurdly realistic everything feels. You can absolutely see the influence of The Office in the way the characters talk over each other, avoid confrontation, and try to sound professional while everything else collapses around them. A lot of the comedy comes from how modern organizations speak, corporate buzzwords, PR language, meetings that accomplish absolutely nothing, people terrified of offending somebody online. And the show absolutely takes digs at modern politics too. There are references to Donald Trump, international relations, green energy, climate concerns, media optics, branding strategy, and the logistical nightmare of running a tournament across 3 different countries. What makes it work is that none of it feels cartoonish. It's actually quite believable, and honestly, that's what makes some of the funniest moments land. The production story behind the show is actually pretty interesting too. The series was officially announced in 2025 as a follow-up to both 2012 and W1A. It consists of 6 episodes and was produced by Expectation, the same company behind Clarkson's Farm. What's fascinating, though, is that the show is set primarily in Miami. Almost none of it was actually filmed in the United States. Instead, production took place in Wembley in the United Kingdom, where a school was transformed into Miami Arts Centre for filming. North Studios was also heavily used for interior sets, with only drone footage shot in America. And honestly, you wouldn't really know this whilst watching. The production design does a very convincing job of selling the illusion. The narration also returns from David Tennant, whose dry documentary-style voiceover remains one of the most important ingredients in making this whole franchise work. Look, overall, did I enjoy 2026? Yeah, I did, I suppose. It's quirky, cleverly written, very British, very awkward, very self-aware. Now, not every joke lands, and it's certainly not a laugh-out-loud spectacle, and some of the characters definitely become irritating intentionally, and it's probably not a show I'd rush to rewatch ever again. But I do appreciate what they were trying to do. The satire works because it feels grounded in reality. Anybody who has worked in corporate environments, media, public relations, or large organizations will immediately recognize the type of people the show is making fun of. And the World Cup setting gives it plenty of material to play with. For me, albeit that the series starts off quite slowly, and I won't lie, the first 2 episodes I found somewhat hard to get into, the show does sort of grow on you and becomes more than watchable, it becomes likable. And definitely it's worth checking out if you enjoyed 2012 or W1A. So overall, while not being a comedy classic, the show does make some very valid points. And with a strong performance from Hugh Bonneville and excellent narration here from David Tennant, this is certainly a mockumentary well worth giving a chance. 2026 gets a 7 out of 10. Have you seen the show yet? And do you enjoy the mockumentary style? Or did the awkward humour not really work for you? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed the review, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.